Sherry, thank you so much. Well, human trafficking is a widespread issue going on right here in our backyard. We have with us this morning clinical professor at Florida State University's College of Law, Wendi Adelson, with a book, and hear more to discuss about human trafficking. And again, like we said, just it's a widespread issue that it's hard to believe it is happening right here in the United States. Welcome, Wendi.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here with us. So before we get into it and get into your book, how is it that these women get here to the United States, and why the United States?
Sure. Human trafficking is a problem that happens all over the world, and oftentimes people think it's just people who come from other countries, but actually victims of trafficking are sometimes born in the U.S. Or have legal status in the U.S. So it's people coming in as well as people who are born here, and we're talking about sex trafficking as well as labor trafficking. So domestic servitude, agricultural industry, as well as the commercial sex industry, which seems to get the bulk of the press.
So you're saying maybe someone who's a housekeeper?
Sure.
And she could be being abused right there under the roof of the person that she's working for.
It's very, very possible.
Okay.
Right. So it's exploitative labor conditions, whether it happens through force, fraud, or coercion.
Okay. And I was reading some statistics. 17 to 25,000 women are brought into the United States every year and used as sex slaves. It seems, I mean, is that an accurate number?
I mean, as far as I know, it does seem possible. We are seeing a large amount of cases, but it's the type of thing that's really hidden in plain sight. Mm-hmm. So people want statistics, and they want statistics for good reason, but it's very hard to know in truth how big the problem is.
Let's talk a little bit more about your book. You're an immigration lawyer, so you deal with women like this all the time. What do you want people to get from your book? What do you want them to understand?
Sure. I want them to see the human side, the human face behind this issue of human trafficking. I want them to understand that these are people who are vulnerable, and that's what leads them to be trafficked, and that they are people who are capable of great courage and great joy. There's a lot of humor built into the book. It's not an altogether dark book. It really exposes the fact that these are human beings, these are individuals, and they come here seeking a better life, and they are duped into an experience that's far beyond what they would have imagined.
That's interesting that you said that the book has some humor to it, because it just seems like such a serious issue.
It is a very serious issue. I don't mean to make light of it, but I included the character of their attorney who tries to help them through the process of their criminal trials and their immigration legal experience, and really tries to help them move on. It's an experience that really breaks their spirits, and the book doesn't end right when they're discovered, right when their experience of trafficking ends. The book continues on to show them trying to live normal lives in the United States and trying to move forward.
Because for many of these women, even though they are free from these traffickers, they still live with this sense of fear, because
Absolutely.
One of the reasons, and I'm assuming here, and please correct me, is if they leave, if they run away from these men that are holding them, they can possibly hurt their families,
Absolutely.
Kill their families.
Sure.
So they always live with this fear.
Mm-hmm. They aren't necessarily physical chains, but there's a large amount of psychological coercion that goes into convincing people that they will harm their families. There's a large amount of psychological coercion that goes into convincing people that they will harm their families if they try to leave, and that keeps people in servitude.
Now, there's some laws in place to try and shut down human trafficking, but there's something that also we as citizens can do. You said that there are some places we may drive by, and it could be going on behind those doors, and we may not even know it.
Sure.
It's kind of like hidden places. What should we be keeping an eye out for?
That's a great question in terms of what are indicators of human trafficking that you might see. I mean, anytime you see a situation where you feel like someone is being victimized in some way, whether it's a child, whether it's an adult, there are hotlines. The Department of Children and Families has a hotline that you can call if you see something that looks a little bit suspicious. If you see a young girl, maybe from the same or a different ethnic group, taking a shower outside, if you see a young person in the neighborhood that doesn't seem to be attending school, that seems to be in the home.
How young are some of these women or girls?
I mean, they could be as young as 5, 6, 7 if we're talking about individuals serving as domestic servants in homes.
Wow.
People working in the agricultural industry. I mean, there are so many industries, especially in Florida. Florida is actually the 3rd worst state for human trafficking.
Wow. Well, Wendi, thank you so much for coming in and talking about this issue with us. And you can find Wendi's book, This Is Our Story, in bookstores, as well as on